Hi everyone and welcome back. It's Monday and I'm not sure what it is, but this morning I'm not sure what I want to do. I've just been going around cleaning stuff and I can't really focus on what I want to work with, but I think I have a plan now. But the thing is, I didn't tell you this, but I brought home this Astro and this Suburban. Both of them are my father's cars, or van and truck, and I'm gonna help him sell them. And this one is ready to go. I'm just cleaning it up a little bit, which I don't think is that fun to show you. But that one, we're going to change the wheel bearing on the front left. I'm waiting for parts for that, and also it has a bit of a noise in the engine. I can't really describe it, so we're gonna look into it further. But there's something in the valve train, I think, and I don't think it's a lifters. So I have ordered some push rods and some rockers. So we're gonna see if that's the problem. But the thing is, I don't have that. Hopefully we have it in the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday last, hopefully. So we're waiting on parts for that, so we're gonna get to that. But besides that, I have ordered a tank for the K10 because I feel like this is so close to being streetable. We just have to put in a tank and do some stuff to the lights. Then we can start using this, see what issues we have, and start to enjoy it. I think it's so close to being a usable vehicle that I might as well just fix it. So I ordered a tank this morning, so I had the tank tomorrow, which also means that we don't have parts for it. So then I was thinking about Chevelle, and I really don't need the rear wheel arches to do work on it, but I feel like I want them before I do too much with this. If I need to cut it open and rearrange anything, it's easier to do now before I welded everything. So I'm waiting on the wheel arches in the rear, and there's a million things we can do on this thing, but I don't know why. I'm just not in the mood right now for that. So I'm gonna do some more practical stuff that we need to do on this thing. And the first thing is that the left front brake doesn't work. This whole front drum assembly, a guy gave it to me. He changed the discs, and it's been laying a long while. So I know that this wheel cylinder, at least before it leaked, I think it stopped leak, but it doesn't push the rods out, so the bands don't touch the drum. So we're gonna change the wheel cylinder at the left front. And also I want to put in the radiator, since now we have a core support, we have something to bolt it to, so that we can drive this a little more without being stressed out about overheating the engine. We can start driving it here in my neighborhood and testing stuff out, and it's always fun to make a car more drivable and usable. So we're gonna start working on the Chevelle, but we'll see where this week goes. We might up doing a lot of stuff, but we're gonna start working on this. I got the drum off, and unfortunately it's pretty wet here with brake fluid, and fortunately the brake shoes are also drenched in oil, or maybe not drenched, but they have brake fluid on them. You can see here also. So I'm gonna try and save these with some brake clean, but we might end up need to replace the shoes here in the future. But for now, I'm just gonna change the wheel cylinder. And I actually spun the wheel here, so we got some rotation, and I pushed the brake pedal and the wheel stopped. But I still think it's not really that good, because in an earlier video when I watched back my footage, and every time I try to do a little burnout or something with this and I apply the brakes, it always shoves the rear of the car to the left, which indicates that it's braking more on the right than on the left, at least in the front. And also in my video when I tried to do that, I saw that my right front locked up and my left one didn't. So I think it is leaking. We need to replace it anyway. We hope that it gets better, but we'll see. Maybe it was leaking before and we had a lot of brake fluid in the shoes and they don't get a good grip, but I didn't see any indication of that earlier. But anyway, I'm gonna change the wheel cylinder, let it be good for now, and maybe in the future I have to remove and change the shoes. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and change this. Okay, so I'm an idiot. I just realized that we're missing this little pin part that goes in here and pushes the brake shoe. So obviously we have only been pushing that shoe, and I'm not really sure, but I'm guessing if, I mean, we at least only got half the power, and I'm not sure if we're pushing that and not that one. Maybe this is rotating and not doing its work. But you might think that if we don't have a pin here, this piston has come out too far and leaked. But the thing is, it's leaking on this side where we have the pin thing, and doesn't seem to leak on this side. So we're gonna replace it anyway, but I'm gonna go ahead and see if I have one of these laying around that we can put in there. I have the new wheel cylinder plates. Wasn't any big issues. And thankfully, I had one of these. It's exactly the same as the other one. And I think that's because when we worked on the Nova before and I bought a new rear axle for it, it had some not complete brakes on it. And we used the brakes from the car on the new rear axle, and all of the old stuff I saved. So I have a whole box of springs and different brake stuff. So thankfully it saved us today. So I'm gonna put these in with everything else and clean it up as good as possible, and then we're done with this. Now I got this all installed with this little pin, and to my defense in missing that, this drum brake assembly I got from a guy for free, and it was complete with the backings and everything put together. So I just put all of that onto the first frame we started with. Then I took all of that off and I just put it back onto this frame, and the only thing I've done is I've painted it from the back side and painted the drums. That's the only thing I've done. So yeah, it was a bit clumsy of me to miss it, but yeah, it is what it is. We would have taken apart either way to fix the leaking wheel cylinder. So anyway, I'm gonna put on the drum here and we'll be done with this little project. We got it done on the ground, so hopefully it works better. It can't be any worse. We have hopefully fixed the leak with the new wheel cylinder, and we got that rod thing in so that it presses on both shoes. So as I said, it can't be any worse. So I started looking on the radiator, and I had two possible radiators for this thing. First of all, there was one in the trunk of this body when I bought it. And also I had one that I have bought so much parts for this thing, and in one batch of the parts there was a radiator, and I hoped that would work. So first of all, I went and checked that the radiator that was in the trunk of this thing, and first of all, it didn't even have a filler cap, so you would need a reservoir, and the inlet and outlet was really narrow, so that wasn't going to work at all. I think that's some old Volvo radiator probably. So that I just threw in my truck bed so I can take it to the scrapyard. And the other radiator that I bought, I went and checked, and first of all, it didn't have any sort of brackets or fasteners. On this thing, it's just to be like a 90 degrees with some holes that you bolt into the core support, but it didn't have anything. But it had a filler cap, but when I looked a little bit closer, the inlet and outlet was on the wrong side, like a lot of Mopars I know had like that. So on this, I think Chevy used this for a long time, but at least on this era of Chevys, the top part of the radiator is on the driver's side and the bottom is on the passenger side, and this obviously was reversed, so it was never going to work. So yeah, from thinking I had two radiators, I don't have any radiator, so I have to I'm gonna try and make some ads and see if someone has one that I can buy. But for now, we're a bit stuck on the radiator part, which sucked a little bit, but it is what it is. So we'll drop that, and I think I'm gonna try and get the seats in a little better. Obviously the passenger side is just thrown in there, and the driver's side, we have these angle iron things that you're supposed to use when you're building stuff, but I mean, if it works, it works. But it's a bit too much tilted towards the rear, and I think that if we remove this and we use this hole instead, This is the original hole. And for some reason, on this side, there are 4 holes, like they have had some sort of bucket seats. But on the driver's side, there's not. There's no holes here in the middle, so I'm not sure what they've done there. But my idea is I'm gonna remove this, drill some holes on the inside, use these holes, and we can try with some different height sleeves, what you call it, and some longer bolts, so that we can set the height that we want. We'll see. I'm probably not going to line up with the rear hole, but we can just drill another hole and yeah, get these in place as we want them and feel like we're at least accomplishing something. I have gone ahead and removed all of these old brackets that they had before. This seat have not been in a Chevelle or anything like that. I can't really remember right now, but he had like a Mazda or something like that. But anyway, something I always have thought about is that on my 67 Chevelle or other cars, I feel I'm sitting very high, and I'm not that tall. I can't tell you how tall I am in imperial measurements, but I'm 170 centimeters tall, which, I mean, I'm not short, but I'm definitely not tall. And I feel like I would like to come down a bit in my 67 Chevelle. And now I have just this sitting on the floor, and I mean, I see straight out the window. I don't feel like I have to come up or something. I feel I'm sitting pretty good here. I mean, I could come up like half an inch or almost an inch also, but I don't feel it's weird sitting this low. And I mean, I can still have my arm out the window without any problem. And I mean, it's not like I'm seeing through the steering wheel or something like that. The steering wheel is about the same height as the dash pad. I mean, if I was this low, then it would start to become an issue. But like this, I don't think it's an issue at all. So I'm just gonna go ahead, make some space. I'm not sure you see this, but it's about maybe an inch here down to the floor from the seat brackets or the rails here. So I'm just gonna make some brackets so we come up a little bit like this and a little bit in the back, and then I think this will be good to go. So now I got the seat temporary in place here, and I have used this to shim it up a little bit. And these are, do you call these sleeves? In Sweden we just call them distances, or what you want to call it if you translate it straight over. But these are used in hitches that I have gotten over from some work when I was working on other stuff before in my life. So yeah, they're pretty beefy. So got about over an inch at the front and about an inch in the rear, because these how they came, and I just cut them in the middle, and that's how it turned out. So I put the longer ones in the front and the shorter ones in the back. But as I said, now it's temporary because I have to extend the seat brackets like an inch so that I can get the holes in the original location. So that I have to do tomorrow. But for now, I think it's about where I want it to be. If you're a bit taller, I mean, you could cut this in half, but there's just enough room that I can move my hand under the seat rail here. And I mean, where you get some sound insulation and some carpet, and I think this is about where you want it to be. But you could go down a bit if you want, but for my height, I don't really need to. I think I already sit lower than in my 67, so I think this is good enough. But I'm out of time here for today, so I can start welding now. So I will be back tomorrow. We're gonna weld this and get the seats in more permanently. We're back. It's Tuesday morning, and I have started to work here on the seat brackets. So I have started to extend the bottom part here so that it reached this hole. It was annoyingly close. I mean, it's only like an inch extra from that hole to that one. So yeah, it is what it is. But now it fits. I can sit in it properly. You could get it lower if you wanted to, but with my height, I don't really need to. So this is how it's going to be. So I'm gonna go ahead and fully weld this and make it look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. So and I'm gonna fix that, do the other seat. But before we bolt them in, I think I'm gonna go ahead and see if the back seat fits. It's from what I heard, is from a Nova, so we'll see. But I'm a bit overwhelmed with this car right now. I can't believe that I was a few months ago were fixing the frame here in the garage and keeping my spirits up high, while now I'm so far ahead, and now I am having a bit of trouble finding the inspiration to work on this thing. But yeah, it is what it is. But to get some inspiration, I want to put on as much stuff as possible, make it feel as much of a car as I can. So I just felt that I might as well check the back seat, see if it fits. So yeah, gonna fix the front seats, then we're gonna see if the back seat works or fits, or what I want to call it. I have the driver's seat done here. I cut off the edges, so now I think it looks pretty good. So that's in there solid, so that's all done. But the passenger side, which I think has been the driver's side, but I mean they're the same on either side, there's no difference in them. But it had a whole different setup with a lot of aluminum plates and brackets and angle irons and door hinges and a lot of bolts. So I removed all of that and put the seat adjusting thing back in the original holes. So that's done. I just have to weld on these things so that we can extend them. But there was some other problems on this seat, or one problem and one weird thing. This thing was attached like this, and these two braces went into these holes, and I couldn't understand what this was for. And as I said, these parts went into these slots, and you see these rivets. I thought these rivets were riveted from here, and I couldn't understand how the hell they would have solved that with this seat cover on. And I did a bunch of stuff. I tried to remove this, and I started cutting it, and I removed some zip ties here that I didn't understand what they did. They went through these holes into this rod here, and until I just pulled this thing and realized that it was only pushed in to these slots, and it was secured through the zip ties with these holes. So yeah, that's how it was there. And why it was there, I believe that, as I said, I think this has been the driver's seat, and I'm assuming the person that had these seats was a bit narrower around the hips like me, and I think that these were so that it would push in this part of the seat a little bit more to make it a little bit more firm or a little bit more narrow. That's my idea. But it's a pretty good ingenuity to make this thing without a welder or anything like that. But that is going away. So now I can put that back together. The problem I'm having now is that this wire for this thing has come loose. There is one on either side, so it works like that, and that one is moving, but obviously not that one. So I have to try and reattach this thing, and there is a small bolt up here that I can reach through this, but I can't see anything from here, so I'm not sure how I'm supposed to get that up there, put a nut on it, have two open keys, and try to tighten that. And this seat cover is really tight, so I'm gonna see if I can manage to pull it up a little more so I can work a little bit better. But yeah, gonna see if I can fix this so that we can fold over the seat. I mean, that was half of the point of buying these particular seats, so we can get into the back seat. But yeah, I'm gonna see if I can solve it. After some fiddling, I managed to get the upholstery up to here, and then I could see the problem behind here, and I already knew that this nut had fallen off. So I put on a new nut here, and on the other side is just a regular nut, no lucky nut or something. So I understand that this has fallen off. It is basically resting on that this is holding it back or something. I'm not sure why they have done it like this, but also this is a Phillips screw, so I can't get any tool in there to tighten it. I would have to remove all of this mechanism so I could tighten it from the back side if I wanted to put a locking nut on it. So instead I just put some thread locker on it and put it on by hand, and I think that will make it tight enough so that it won't come off. I mean, the other side, the passenger side, hasn't come off, and there was no thread locker or anything there. So now this is done. I just gotta try to get the upholstery back on, and I was debating back and forth if I just not have done this. if I should have put this seat on the driver's side and have the working seat on the passenger side, and yeah, you just have to jump in on the passenger side. But yeah, I felt that I was this far already. It didn't feel like it would be a lot more work, and it wasn't. It was some work, but we managed to get it together again. So I'm really happy I went this route. So now I just have to put this down again. Hopefully I can get it to look decent. Then we can fix the seat mounting things and yeah, put it in a car and test the back seat and all of that. The other seat is done, and this works now, as you can see. So I'm really happy with that. And also, as I said, these seat tracks were not the same as on the other seat, it's called. So this was a little bit longer. So here I could just file out the holes a little bit so that we would get the measurement that we wanted. So hopefully that one fits in the car now. And before we're gonna put that in or try it, I'm gonna see if this back seat fits or is close to fit. This, from what I've been told, has originally from a Nova of unknown year. And then it's been in a 55 Chevy 2-door post, and now it's going into Chevelle. I mean, we'll see if it fits. Maybe we have to do some filler pieces or something. I have a pair of those from something, I don't know. It came with some of the parts I bought. If we have to do something, I don't know. But yeah, some way we'll make it work. So I'm gonna see how far off we are. We already have our first issue, which isn't that strange with these big wheel wells. And we could cut out the seat here and modify it to fit with these wheel wells. But since I'm not really sure of the history of this body, and the body was not on this frame before, I bought the frame and then I bought the body. And these wheel wells are a lot wider than the frame accepts a tire. So we have a lot of space in here within the frame. So if we modify the wheel wells in here, we're never going to have any tire clearance issues. And I mean, we have a lot of space in here. We're never going to rub up there anyway. So I think it will be easier to just... I mean, we can see here where the frame is. We can cut up here, up to here, something like that. Then we can make a little piece here so we have a little bit of an angle here instead. I think that would be a lot easier, and there's never going to be any clearance issues anyway, instead of start to modify this thing. I think that will be easier. So yeah, I think we're going to do that. This is how it turned out. So I just cut the edge here and made some cuts like this and folded them over. I was going to cut this and this instead and just put a plate here and weld it all the way around. But I think this was just as easy. Now later we can just make a cut along here and do some cuts here so that we can weld it edge to edge and make it look nice. And also the same thing over there. So I think it turned out decent. So I have already tested the back seat fits, at least the back part. So I'm gonna put this in, then we can put the lower piece in and see if it fits. So I'm this far, and obviously it doesn't fit, but I've checked with my 67, and this is about how far the lower piece wants to be forward. And I need to push it back a little bit over there. But the problem I'm having is that we have these lower braces for the seat bit. And obviously they have a fold over here, but that fold has to start earlier back here. And also over here. So yeah, we have to modify them a bit. And also on the 67, this piece is it just hangs over this piece on the floor. But obviously this will hang over a bit more, but it's the angle of the lower part here on the seat, and I'm not gonna reconstruct it. I just want to make it fit. If it has a bit of an overhang here, we have to live with that. So I'm gonna see if I can modify the braces on here. Now we at least have it where we want it to be. but it isn't fastened in any way. And I cut out the outer braces because they had this bracket that was going to interfere a little bit with how I wanted it to be. And the middle braces I cut and folded over like this. So I'm just gonna push them in like this and weld them together again, so that will be sturdy. The only problem I'm having now is how am I going to make this attach in some way. Most seats, or all the seats I work with, have these sort of, I don't know what to call them, but hooks that you get the seat over it and it grabs. And it's not this kind of style, but the funny thing is that this thing seems to somewhat should work with this, but there's no way I can get a screw or clip or something in under here in a good way. So I'm not really sure how I'm going to solve this. I could make a long bracket that would catch this, but it would be pretty long and I'm not sure how I'm gonna fix that. So we'll see how we make it work, but now at least we can get it in place pretty easily. And you can sit here, it doesn't feel any weird. I think this is the right angles for the backrest or end sitting area. So yeah, it's in place anyway and feels good and seems to be fit decent. I mean, there's a bit of a gap here, but I don't think that is going to look weird. I mean, everything is weird with this body, so not gonna be any worse than anything else on it. So yeah, I'm gonna see if I'm gonna weld those braces a little bit, then I'm gonna see if I can make it attach at least in some easy way so that it doesn't just fall out when someone is sitting here. So we're gonna see if we can solve something. Here we have the back seat in place permanently, or how I want it to be, and I'm gonna say I'm actually really impressed by myself how I managed to fix this. So now it sits firmly on both sides, and it is sitting as it's supposed to do originally. I figured out how it was supposed to be on this body, and I can just pull it up like that, like original. And what we have under here is, it's not super pretty, but it's still a work in progress. But now I know that it works. If I want, I could fix stuff like this, but it works. So I welded the middle bars, and the outer ones I flipped upside down. You can see this folds inwards and this folds outwards, and welded them. Here you have where they were before, and now they're just one bar out. And I took these pieces that were on this seat because I realized that this thing is supposed to go over this little tab here. So I messed a bit back and forth. I had to move it out a little bit. I had to raise it a little bit and figure out where it wants to be. But now I can fold this and just put it in. Of course, it's messing up around. So now it is in there like original, and it's sitting good. So yeah, I'm actually really proud of myself that I managed to make it work that good, and just with the mounts and exactly how it's supposed to be. And it fits really good. I mean, of course, we could have had it a little wider over here, but all in all, I think it fits great. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. So yeah, back seat is done. So now I'm gonna go ahead and put in the passenger seat, and then we will be done with the interior for now. So now finally we have an interior in this. Is it the nicest in the world? No, probably not, but I think it's pretty cool with the embroidered, or what you call it, Chevelle logo in the back seat. And I have never seen this kind of stitching with the squares, and I think it looks pretty cool. And now we can just fold over the front seat like I hoped, and we can just jump in here, and the back seat feels really good. I don't feel like there's something wrong with the angles or something. So I'm really happy with all of this, how it turned out. Maybe not the most important thing to do right now, but if we wanna work on the wheelhouse in the rear or something else, we can just throw out the back seat, and we know that when we want it, we can just throw it back in, because we know that it fits. So yeah, overall, I'm really happy with how all of this turned out, and it's really nice to have a driver's seat that is properly bolted to the floor. I had that gray Suburban seat before that was sitting on one bolt very badly. It came loose one time, and I was really afraid I was going to pull the steering wheel off because I don't have a nut on it. So yeah, hopefully now we don't have to run into something here in the backyard because the seat falls off. So yeah, I'm happy with the interior. So for now, we're gonna leave it. I mean, if we had a carpet in it, it would look pretty decent. So yeah, also we could paint the floor black, but I'm not gonna paint it until I know I'm done with the wheelhouses and stuff like that. But I'm gonna leave it at that, and unfortunately time is running away here, so we don't have much time here for today. But I opened the hood because I wanted to take a picture to make an ad that I'm searching for a radiator. And I realized that it was pretty dusty under here and I don't have an air cleaner. So I'm gonna see if I can scrape together some parts and make an air cleaner for this thing. You know the feeling when you have almost all the parts you need to fix something, but you're missing some bits to make it work. And I'm at that point right now because I have a lot of air cleaner stuff, but nothing really matches and works together. I have this thing that I think is for my modern throttle body engine, and I didn't want to use it, but I could, but the filter is totally rusted. So I mean, if we're not going to run a filter, I mean, it's a little bit better, but we might as well not. And I had this thing that I didn't have a filter, and I found a filter that should be good enough, but it is pretty rusty. It has some rust holes and stuff like that, and I mean, I would like to have a chrome air cleaner. And I have this matching lid and bottom, but I don't have an air filter that is big enough that is going to work. I only have two small filters. And then I have this Edelbrock thing with a matching base. And I have a filter that is, I mean, the inner diameter is correct, but the outer diameter is wrong. So it's like a half an inch too small, which makes it look pretty dumb. But this is the best alternative we have right now. So that's what we're going with right now. But I really need to have some air cleaners at home that I can use, because this is mostly just junk when I don't have stuff, the rest of the stuff to make it work, or what do you want to call it. But anyway, let's put on that thing. Now finally have an air cleaner, and per usual I had to modify a rod to have the right length. There are always different lengths, so I had to lengthen it to work. And I wasn't really planning on putting this air cleaner on this thing, but yeah, it will do for now. That when that day comes, when our biggest worry is what valve covers and air cleaner we have, yeah, we can tackle that, but that day feels a long way away. So yeah, that's all for today. I'm gonna go ahead and clean a little bit here, and then I'll be back tomorrow and see what we'll do then. We're back. It's Wednesday morning, and today I've actually been and picked up some parts. I have finally gotten my new rear wheel arches for this thing. So as I mentioned earlier, this is for Mercedes W114 and 115, or however you say it. I don't know Mercedes, but they match the front wheel arches very nicely. So what is nice now is that we can put this wherever we want it. We can move it back if we want to adjust the space here in the front and in the back. Also, I want to lower this thing, and in that case I can move it up a little bit. So we have a lot of room for adjustment however we want to fit it. So that's nice. So we could work with that, but we're not going to do that right now. Also, I have gotten a new fuel tank for the K10 and also a new accelerator pump for the carb. So I had a plan I was going to work with that today, but really felt that that wasn't really necessary right now. I am still waiting for parts for the Suburban, the wheel bearing and the rockers and push rods. And I'm thinking that we might start tearing into that. I hopefully have the parts here today from Rock Auto, but we'll see. But I think we're gonna come to that thing pretty soon. But yesterday I made an ad that I wanted to buy a radiator for the 64 Chevelle here. And I don't need anything special. Any middle 60s through the 70s should work. And then there was a guy that just commented and said, just buy a new one. And that bugged me because, I mean, yeah, of course, I could afford to buy a Chinese aluminum radiator for $300. But if we start working like that and buying a new rad for $300 and new this and that for $100 and $500, and yeah, the money keeps adding pretty quickly. And eventually we would have spent $20,000 on this thing, and it would only be worth like 12 or 15. So yeah, I can't really work like that, and that's not really my style. So with that said, and as I said, I need basically any radiator. And I was looking through my radiators yesterday and like, nah, this isn't going to work. But then when he said that, I was just like, no, I'm gonna fix this with whatever I have at home. So I rummaged through the pile again and found this radiator. This is from a 91 Chevy work truck with a V6 and a manual transmission. It has the right width to fit in here. I compared it to my 67 Chevelle radiator. So measurements wise, it is correct. But the thing with these is that they don't have any mounting points. On the Chevy trucks, they stick in here into some rubber in the core support. And you have a bracket you just put over here that secures it in the top, which we don't have any sort of that. We have some bolt holes here that the original radiator is supposed to bolt up to. So I'm not sure if we're gonna make some sort of shelf down here. We can put the radiator in and something in here that can hold it, or if we're gonna do something else. So yeah, I'm gonna start thinking about how I can mount this radiator, and the goal for today with this thing is to have water in it and yeah, have a cooling system. Also, we have to put on the alternator so that we can get the water pump spinning. So yeah, gonna see if we can solve this. So I've started working on this, and there is a problem. It's not a huge problem, but the thing is, this filler neck is so tall. And if you look at a traditional radiator, you have the cap here just at an angle on the side. And the thing is, the hood is pretty close here. So that makes it, I need to get the radiator down a little bit, which isn't really what I want, but it is what it is, what we have to do with this radiator. So I'm gonna do, I have these, I'm not sure where these are from, but I'm gonna attach these to the original hose and make something that clamps the radiator on the side. I had a lot of original brackets for this type of radiator, so I could make it a permanent installation, but I feel that this probably isn't, I'm not sure how long this radiator is going to be in this thing, and if someone puts in a bigger engine, needs a bigger radiator, they're probably going to buy an aluminum radiator that is fitted for this car. So I don't want to, I'm allergic to drilling extra holes in cars or vehicles that I'm not sure that are permanent. So I really don't want to build something that I don't feel maybe it's going to be there for a long while. So I'd rather make some more of temporary brackets. So with that said, I'm gonna make something that holds it on sides. It's gonna be good enough. But another thing, I bought this. You're not gonna be able to read it, but there's a guy here in Sweden that makes this. It's sort of a rust remover, rust prevention thing that is, I have never tried it, but I've heard of it before. And it's both supposed to remove rust and put on some sort of protective coating. So I picked up some bolts here for the radiator. And I mean, these are from square bodies I have picked apart for parts, and I always save the bolts. They're awesome to put. All of my cars are built with all of these bolts I removed from square body trucks. So I was just curious if I could put this in here with some of that and see if it turns or it starts to look good. I mean, if we can both remove the rust and put on some sort of rust protection, that would be awesome. Also, you're supposed to be able to just rub it on something like this. Someone has taken this down to bare metal and then just left it, and it has some pretty heavy surface rust. So I'm gonna try if that does anything to this, because this is a pain in the ass to sand. So yeah, we'll see. I'm gonna do some testing here in the background while I'm fixing the brackets for the radiator. Now I have the radiator supports mocked up. So I had this angle iron here with some tabs I have made that take support from these, what do you call it, enforcement of the plastic ends here on the radiator. So they go into that. We have on the front side here and on this side, of course. So the thing with this radiator is that this side is straight and this side is bent, so they can't be the same or look nice. This side looks, I mean, kind of nice, while that side looks a bit worse. But anyway, it is good enough. It is in place, it's not going anywhere. So I'm gonna take off them, fully weld them, paint them, and then we can install the radiator. And after that we can start messing with the hoses and the belts and stuff like that. But here in the background I have the bolt and the other test. This thing obviously has happened something. So it said with light rust 2 to 4 hours. So we're gonna let that sit for a little while longer. But here on the door hasn't happened anything that I can see anyway. And it said in the instructions that you can take it on a rag and just wipe it on and it's supposed to work. I'm not sure if this is too heavy. This isn't that heavy surface rust, but it hasn't done anything here yet anyway. So I'm gonna try and apply some more and see if it works, but it hasn't done anything yet anyway. But I'm gonna take that off, weld it, paint it, and then I'll be back and we can install all the stuff. It's been a few hours here. I've taken lunch with my father, and I have installed the radiator with the hoses that I found. They're not perfect, but they're gonna work. It's in place, it's sturdy. As I said, I'm not sure how long this will be, but if we wanna go to another radiator, we can just remove this and use the original hose, and we haven't drilled any new holes that we have to fill in. So I'm happy with that. Now we have to make this thing spin. So I'm gonna see where I have the alternator and brackets for that. So we can put that on and get a belt on it. But besides that, the bolt here is looking about how it looked before. I'm gonna let it be for a while longer and see how it turns out. But here on the door hasn't happened much. You can see where it's been the slightest of surface rust. It has started to come down to bare metal, but here where it's a bit thicker, it hasn't happened much. And now that this has dried, I'm assuming it doesn't do any work anymore. So I'm gonna apply some more and see if we get any more results. But yeah, not really sure about doing it on a surface like this. But yeah, I'm gonna see if that can get any better and find the alternator. After a little bit of fiddling, we got the alternator on the car. I had a complete alternator bracket assembly set up and the power steering pump also. Now I don't have power steering anyway, but I had all of that on this engine when I bought it and I can't find it right now. So I had to rummage all my boxes and find a set of alternator brackets and an alternator. This one is probably bad. It's not spinning super smoothly, but for now it's only meant as a pulley to get some tension on the water pump, so it doesn't really matter. So that's done. I looped the heater core hoses. I made a little plug here. So I mean, we have to redo this when we get a heater core and stuff like that, but for now I think it's going to work. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean up here a little bit, and then we can fill up some water and see if it leaks or whatever. So I start adding some water here, and both the thermostat housing leaks and this hose seems to be leaking. So that's nothing to worry about, we can fix those. So I'm gonna go ahead and see if I find any more leaks and fix everything that I find. But I forgot to mention in my last clip that I got my order from Rock Auto. So now we have the push rods and we have the rocker and the wheel bearing, so that we can start working on that thing. And I had a potential buyer lined up to buy this thing. I was just gonna fix it, and I'm not saying that he was going to buy it, but it felt pretty good. So I called him and said that, hey, I have the parts, and he said that he had made a deposit on another vehicle. So I mean, it sucks, but it is what it is. So we have to find another buyer. But we're gonna fix that thing in the next video probably. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and fix the leaking stuff, and hopefully we can take this for a test drive in the neighborhood. I fixed the thermostat housing with some RTV, and I cut off this hose a little bit and retorqued it with the hose clamp, but I don't think it's leaking from here anymore. But you can see here that the water is moving. I mean, this engine, I got to know after I bought it from another guy that this engine has been stuck, and there's a lot of issues with this engine, and I believe that they have removed the intake manifold and then just put it back with the old gaskets and some RTV or something like that, because it looks like that. So I think the intake gaskets are leaking, hopefully not into the engine right now. So I'm gonna, unfortunately, the only thing I can do is have to remove the intake and change the intake gaskets, which isn't the end of the world, but wasn't what I was hoping to do right now. So I'm gonna empty the engine again and drive it into the garage. It was a bit of a bummer that the intake leaked. It's not a big thing to fix. It's just that this engine is the gift that keeps on giving. There's always something more with this engine that I just come across, but at least it sounds good when it's running. So I could just go ahead and rip off the intake right now, but I feel like I really want to get the Suburban out, get it out on the market for sale, so that hopefully someone can come and buy it. So I feel it's more important right now to fix the wheel bearing and hopefully fix the engine sound, the bad sound in the engine. So with that said, we're gonna take a little break here with Chevelle. I'm gonna work on the Suburban, but that will be the next video. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed watching me working on the 64 Chevelle, and yeah, I'll see you later this week.